This is part 2 of the 4-part video series teaching you how to handle the feeling of being trapped during a blushing situation. And in part 1, we covered how to calm the anxiety that you experience so that you don't go into a panic spiral. But even after the panic fades and you're able to calm down just a little bit, you're still left with this wave of embarrassment, right? You're wondering, like, everyone's watching you. You might think that everyone's wondering what's wrong with you. You feel like you're the center of attention and you're really worried about people seeing you turn into an absolute tomato. So in this video, or in this episode, if you're listening on Spotify, I want to talk about how to stay calm even when your face turns red and that you can feel less embarrassed. And if you don't know who I am, just as a quick reminder, my name is Colin Clem, and I overcame my fear and embarrassment around excessive blushing after nearly 10 years of dealing with it. And I didn't use makeups, creams, medications, therapy, surgery, or anything like that. And now I run a coaching program where I've helped dozens of other blushers overcome this as well. And I make these videos to give away all my knowledge for free in order to earn your trust and give you a taste of what it might be like to be a client in my program, with the ultimate goal of having a few of you join me in my program as a client so you can overcome this much faster, much easier, and much more enjoyable than trying to do this on your own. And so if you're interested, I have a training down below that explains more about my program, as well as a link to apply directly if you're ready, so that way we can chat and see if it's a good fit for you. But today, I want to help you feel less embarrassed when you start to blush and you feel trapped. Now, I encourage you to go and watch part 1 if you haven't seen it already, because I don't want to re-explain everything and make this another 30+ minute video. But I wanted to give you a quick recap just in case it's been a minute since you watched that last one. So this is for situations where you feel trapped, like a conversation, a meeting that you're in an enclosed room. It starts and it's going to be an hour, 2 hours long, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't really get out of here. It's going to be inappropriate for me to leave. It's a social circle where somebody else is talking and you just have to sit there and listen, but you feel like the attention is kind of on you, and it's very noticeable if you start turning red. I've agreed that this is one of the hardest situations to overcome because a lot of your options that you normally have aren't available. You know you can't escape. You know you can't speak up. You know you can't raise your hand or divert attention away from you. There's really nothing you can do. And what I normally teach people is that they need to apply the right mindset to situations and take action that aligns with that mindset in order to break their beliefs. But in these specific situations, you don't have the actions to rely on. You only have the mindset. You only have your beliefs to rely on. And these moments are essentially a test of what you really believe. Do you believe that this is embarrassing? Do you believe that this is something to be afraid of? And these moments where it's just you in your own head listening to your own thoughts, this is where you either can say, no, this is not embarrassing. This is just something that happens. Or this is so embarrassing, I need to get out of here. Your mind's going to go one of these two directions. And we're going to try to get you from the feeling of, this is so embarrassing, I need to get out of here, I hope this doesn't happen, that mindset. And we're going to learn how to develop the mindset of, it's fine. It's just something that happens. Because once you're there, you have solved this problem. Okay? So that is a recap of what we covered a lot in the last video. And in the last video, we went deep into this first layer of general anxiety. So essentially, I've come up with this sort of format here that if you can develop these 4 layers of beliefs, then you will solve your blushing problem. And the 4 layers of beliefs when it comes to feeling trapped is first that overall anxiety that you get, this feeling that you're going to die. You have this belief that, I might make a scene, I'm going to need medical help, I'm going to die, I'm going to have a panic attack. Right? That might be a belief that you have. Maybe not if you're already watching this video. Maybe you can skip that one. But if you have that belief, in that video, I explained how you need to develop the counter argument that you're not going to die. You won't need help and you don't need to escape. You're going to be fine. Right? When you feel that first urge, when you feel that first limiting belief come in, you have to develop the appropriate response that gets you feeling back in control and gets you to calm down. But you only truly believe that counter argument once you have gone through situations and built up evidence that it's actually true, that you actually will survive, that you will be fine, that you're not going to make a huge scene. Once you've gone into some situations and applied this mindset and you've collected proof, then you will start to believe, because belief comes from firsthand evidence from building firsthand evidence repeatedly. So in this video, I want to explain the second layer of belief, which is general embarrassment. It's this feeling, and I'll just dive right into it. So at this level, your limiting belief is, it's going to be so noticeable. They're going to wonder what's wrong with me. Everyone's going to notice. Everyone's going to look. I'm going to attract so much attention. Like these sort of thoughts, these beliefs that you have on what were to happen if you turn red, right? This is what is causing all of your pain at this stage. And you think, I can't get out of here. I can't speak up to prove that I am confident. I can't, I can't make a joke to show that I'm not bothered. You just are sitting there turning red, and everyone's going to think you're awkward, you're uncomfortable, that something is wrong with you. That is what you currently believe as you're watching this video, most likely. Now, some of you might not believe that, right? Some of you might be up in this third and fourth layer, which we're going to get into in parts 3 and 4. But if you're someone who just worries about really anyone at all seeing you turning red like this, because you're trapped in a situation, then this is for you. So you need to develop the counter argument that gets you back in control and feeling less embarrassed. And the counter argument that works for me very, very well is, it's not as red as it feels. Most people barely notice or barely care if I don't make it weird. So this is huge. I mean, like, the actual counter arguments that you develop are going to be dependent on what works for you. That's a caveat I should have mentioned in the first video, in the first part, but don't feel the need to repeat this word for word for yourself. The actual thoughts that give you the feeling of control and power over the situation and how you're going to act might be a little bit different, right? You might have to find something that really feels empowering to you. But you have to develop a thought that gets you from feeling so ashamed and embarrassed to feeling like it's really not a big deal. And I want to give you just a little bit deeper of a mental reframe here. Is you think like, when I was dealing with this, I truly thought that the world revolved around me. I thought that this issue was so obvious, everyone would notice, and it's all anybody would think about. People would form their opinions of me, and it would all be based on the fact that I blushed. And I thought it was like this huge moment when it would happen. But guys, I wish I could. Part of the reason that I make these videos is because I feel like I've seen the truth. And I'm trying to help you see the truth as well. It's almost like the Matrix, right? Taking the red pill. I feel like I've seen how reality actually works. And when you're in this problem, I don't think you see reality correctly. I think you see it in a way that's honestly a bit self-absorbed. Like right now, you just see this as like this thing that other people pay so much attention to. But I promise you guys, people do not care or notice nearly as much as you think they do. You also don't even go as red as you think you do. It feels like you're turning into a tomato. But if you actually look in the mirror, yes, you might be red, but oftentimes you're not crazy red. Sometimes you can be, sure. But for the most part, it's not as red as you think. And even if it was as red as you think it is, even if you were purple, most people don't care about you all that much. Maybe that sounds harsh, maybe that sounds depressing, but for me, that was incredibly freeing, guys. And you might be like, well, Colin, no, you're wrong. Like, people judge me for this. People point it out. People make me feel weird. No. You will always find what you are looking for. you are looking at the one or two or three people in your entire life that maybe do say something, that maybe do tease you. And you like, that's all you're obsessed about is these three people, two people, one person. And instead of paying attention to the other 98% of people that you interact with on a daily basis who don't say a word, they don't care. You're letting these 2 to 3 people have full control over your well-being. And you've convinced yourself that because they notice, everyone notices. But no, these people just have nothing better to do with their life. Look at it that way. Everybody else, I promise you, they go home, they're not going to be like, oh my God, like, they're not going to go home and tell their wife, like, oh my gosh, like, Becky, she turned so red in the meeting today. I promise you, no one has ever said those words. I almost guarantee it. They're going to go home. They're going to talk to their wife, and they're going to be like, oh man, like, I have this thing that I have to do for tomorrow. Everyone is absorbed in their own problems. Right now, you are listening to a video, you are watching a video that is about a problem that you are dealing with. You are thinking about you. Guess what your coworkers are doing? Guess what your classmates are doing? They are thinking about them right now. They are not thinking about you. And so in the moment, it feels like the end of the world. It feels like, oh my gosh, like I'm turning red. Everybody's going to notice the world's ending. But people may notice, maybe, but then they immediately go back to what they are thinking about, what's on their mind, the thing they have to do today, the thing they have to do for the next class or the next presentation or the next meeting. Like we get in this mindset that it's all about us and that like we're the center of attention. But I promise you, that's not the case. And if you're in this situation where you feel yourself turning red and you have this overall wave of embarrassment and you're like, it's so noticeable, they're going to wonder what's wrong with me. You just have to do two things. The mindset you need, you have to remind yourself it's probably not as red as it feels. But even if it is, most people barely notice or barely care, especially if I don't make it weird. So what you're going to do is you're going to avoid fidgeting. You're going to avoid trying to keep your eyes darting around and like avoiding eye contact. You're going to just be a good listener. Stay engaged, smile, look interested, nod, keep going, act unfazed. Act unfazed. People see so much more to you than just the color of your skin. They look at your eyes. They look at your smile. They look at the energy that you're bringing to the room, right? And so if somebody else is talking to you, just focus on being a good listener. And there's also another mindset that will help with this is that you can't have two conversations at the same time. So if you're in your own head, what in the heck? I just had these balloons that popped up on the screen. If you're on YouTube, you saw it. But if you're in the mindset of like having a conversation with yourself while the meeting's happening, while the conversation's happening, while this person's speaking to you, you aren't listening to them. And so you can't have two conversations at the same time. So instead of when you find yourself having this mental conversation, realize that means you're no longer paying attention to the conversation that's going on in front of you. And so you just focus back on the conversation in front of you. You just say, no one's going to care. And even if they do, they aren't the people that I'm trying to impress anyway, right? And that'll be actually a topic I want to dive into in parts 3 and 4. But that mindset alone, it's going to neutralize 90% of situations. Just start paying attention to all the people who don't care. You're going to notice people don't really look at you. Or if they do look at you and you just keep acting normal, you don't make it weird, you don't feel uncomfortable, you just smile or nod or whatever, people are going to look away. They're not going to think anything of it. And don't read into their body language. Don't try convincing yourself that they're uncomfortable or that you're making them feel weird or that they're judging you. Don't do that, because bring that to court. Would it hold up in court? No. So if it's not going to hold up in court, then you have no factual evidence to base that on, and you're therefore making it up in your head. So stop doing that and just start paying attention and looking at everything at face value. People look at you and they look away, just like they do to everybody else in the room. And so people don't care or notice unless you make it weird. That's it. Okay. That's the mindset you're going to, every time you feel that panic of, oh no, this is the end of the world, it's going to be so noticeable, they're going to wonder what's wrong with me. You're going to say, you know what? I'm just going to focus on what I can control. And most people won't care, especially the people that I want in my life. They're not going to notice. They're not going to care. And as long as I don't make it weird, they're not going to think much of it. That's the mindset you need to apply. Something along those lines. And I'm telling you, this will solve 90% of the situations. If you can actually, the thing is, you have to actually believe that statement. And it only gets stronger the more that you apply it. Every time that you prove that belief true, the panic that you feel, that embarrassment that you feel, it'll fade little by little. Okay? So that's what you need to do, is just build belief, build evidence that people don't notice, people don't care. Look at all this proof in front of you and start paying more attention to that than the few people who do notice, or the few people who you are really, really worried about making a good impression for. So once you've done that, once you've developed the belief in this statement right here, that is going to solve a large part of your anxiety and your embarrassment around blushing. And so at this point, you've solved your panic, right? You realize, I'm not going to die. It's not the end of the world, even if I do feel anxious. And then the second thing is you told yourself it's not really a big deal. Most people don't care, right? Let's say you truly believe both of those statements now. If you don't believe those statements, build up that proof. That's the whole goal of this. But if you do believe those statements, there's still a couple of situations left. You're like, okay, well, what if it's somebody really, really important that I really do care about making a good impression in front of? And then also, what if somebody does actually judge me? How do I handle that? So we're going to target these two in the next two parts, but the next one, we're going to dive into how to handle the potential judgment or the embarrassment from having this happen in front of somebody that you believe is important, or in a situation that you believe is important. So if it's your boss or someone that you really look up to, or it's a client that you're trying to make a good first impression on, what if it happens in those situations? How do you what mindset can you use to be able to overcome the feeling of being trapped in those situations? That's what we're going to cover in part 3, which is how to deal with blushing when you feel like your identity or your reputation is on the line in a place where you don't have control over taking action, right? And you just have to sit there. What can you do mentally to actually be able to overcome that situation? And once we go through that part 3, I just want to tell you that is one of the biggest mental shifts that I have ever made. So I'm excited for you to get into that. But if you got value from this video, please give it a like, leave a comment down below with your thoughts, subscribe for more. If you want to learn more about my coaching program, I have a free training below, as well as links to apply directly, and we can chat to see where you're at, how you're, what you're currently experiencing, see if it's a good fit for you. And if it is, we'll figure out next steps. But with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.